What up? What up? What up, elementals? Y'all know what today is. Today is fire time. And today we're going to be discussing what the basis of hate is. I'll be your host, and I'm flanked by my brothers.
Wind.
Earth.
And I'm water.
All right. So let me just give you a warning because this topic is so broad in terms of how hate manifests itself, how we experience hate in the world, and if we keep it a buck, how we experience hate within ourselves. And I'm gonna take you on a roller coaster ride. It's gonna be a bit of a journey that we will explore each and every one of those buckets. So I want you to keep it 100 with yourselves because we want audience participation. We're not gonna judge hate as either good or bad. As you know, the elements try to live a life outside of that domain to the extent which we can. But let's see what comes up. So that being said, without further ado, let's start with a definition. We're going to go to the Oxford. Let's go to Oxford. All right. Is Oxford? Is Oxford okay, Chief?
I'll give you a pass. I'm not gonna dog out your definition source the way you dogged out mine. But anyway, go ahead.
Don't hate on me, bro. Don't hate on me. So simply put, out of the Oxford Dictionary, hate simply means to have a strong feeling of dislike for somebody or something. Again, it's a strong feeling of dislike for somebody or something. I'm gonna pause there and just confer with the elements. Do you agree, or would you like to add to it? And if so, how so?
No, I agree. That's good. I like that. I like because it gives hate context, and I like context. It's my favorite thing.
No doubt.
Sounds good to me. Sounds good to me.
When?
I would just say that hate is a very emotional state. It's a very intense state. Otherwise, I can align with that.
Copy. And we're going to get to the intensity of it because there's a physiological response in the body that comes out of the brain. As a matter of fact, when I thought about this show, and I thought about the basis of hate, like what undergirds hate, what is at the crux of it, a verse came to mind by the great philosopher Nasir Jones. Now, Nasir says, most people fear what they don't understand and hate what they cannot conquer. I guess that's just a theory of man became a monster. You know the rest of the verse. So if we consider that fear is at the crux of understanding and hate is part and partisan of a dynamic that one experiences when they can't conquer another. Is that absolute truth? When?
I don't know if it's solely on conquering. I guess it could be a response on not being dominated or not being conquered, right? It could be a response on misunderstanding. It could be a issue with the respect to angst about resources, a perception of lack of resources. It could be that there existed some relationship and there was some dishonor or something despicable occurred. I'm sure we'll get into it, but there's a whole host of rationales for hatred.
Anybody else there? Yeah. Anybody else want to build or add on to that? Because you're spot on. And like I might have an answer, but I want to see if my brothers and the elementals will help flush out the fullness, the full scope, both sides, if you will, top and bottom of this dynamic called hate. Earth, what you got?
Repeat the question really quick.
Yeah. So the question was what Nas said, which is that people fear what they don't understand and hate what they can't conquer. Was that a full and absolute understanding of the basis of hate, or is it partial? And
Oh,
if it's
definitely
partial, yeah. What's missing? What did Nas miss?
He missed the nuance, in my opinion, and it's not. He missed the circumstance. He missed the condition.
Yeah.
Because hate could be a learned behavior. For some, could have been taught that. Or it could have been acquired based upon how life treated you.
It's very interesting you say that, because I was doing some research as to like if it was something that was nature versus nurture, and a lot of scientists agree that it's supposed to, especially psychologists will say that it's taught, right? However, if you go to the neuroscience and you dive deeper and you see that the brain,
Thank you.
in the subcortex, specifically in the putamen, in the insula, is where hate occurs. It causes me to think, guys, and I want to get Waters' take on this. Like, how can it be like, okay, maybe it's dormant, maybe the occurrence or the experience of hate where we possess the capability to have this experience, but it's dormant and it gets triggered when these events have these nuances that you spoke of happen. But the fact that our brain is hardwired for the possibility of us to actually experience it, you know, I don't know if it's nature versus nurture. I'm on the fence. Water, what you got, bro?
Well, I myself think that it's a lot of it comes from nurture. To me, what I see the basis of hate stemming from is from I don't know what the word is, but it's something about differences. Has something to do with differences, because hate spans across. People hate for various reasons. And I think that a lot of times when things are different, from what I have observed, it seems like that's when hate starts to appear. When there's some sort of difference, and then the person, we'll call them the hater, okay? When the hater, there's the hater and there's the hatee, okay? So when the hater is the one who really, really kind of identifies that they are different, then that's when, and then they feel an affinity to what's like them, then I think that's when, as far as what I observe, that's where hate to me stems from.
Yeah, perceived differences. And on that note, let's grab Brother Ted from Facebook. Anytime we get a brother who's commenting early, we got to pull the brothers to the stage. Brother Ted's first comment is a question, actually.
Yeah, we just want to shout out. We want to shout out because I mean, we in the past couple of weeks we've had. I mean, the men have stepped up. So this is definitely right up our alley.
Shout out to Baba Ted.
And Baba Ted says, "Is hate accessing our dark side?" Oh, lead us up here. Lead us up here for a second, because I will admit, and I'll ask you guys this. Elementals also chime in. When you hear the word hate, where does the default association go? Like, I get imagery of war. I get imagery of hate crimes. I get sound bites of hate speech, right? like before I did the research, I would say that my default occurrence of the whole world of hate would have occurred for me as something that is not of God, let's just say, or not of consciousness, let's just say.
Something different than you.
Something different than me. How did it occur for you at any point like that, Water? Dark is a dark, something dark in sinister or evil within us.
I mean, let's be honest. We've all been haters in different situations. So, I mean, I would say, yeah, it's definitely part of a side of us that most of us don't want to. Well, I take that back. Some people actually embrace, like when they hate something, they are all out there in the open with that hate. And because sometimes it's actually okay to hate things, even in popular media. Certain things you can hate them openly, and it's just like, oh yeah, you're a good person because you hate that. And at the end of the day, hate is hate. It doesn't matter if it's hating for a cause, hating something that's evil. At the end of the day, you really can't justify hate. So to answer your question, fire, did it occur? I mean, to me, I think going back to Baba Ted's or AKA Ted Marsh's comment or question, I think that it's part of a dark side of us that just, and again, to me, it's the part of us, as far as I see, that's not really about embracing differences and resists the differences.
I think that in addition to that some people, some entities, some organizations don't necessarily have the capacity to effectively resolve conflict, and hatred occurs out of that inability.
Yeah.
I would say that supports Waters, theory about the perceived differences.
Yeah, you're only going to have conflict when there's differences of something, opinions, values, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
So,
but I'm directly speaking to the ability to resolve it and to effectively communicate, and to hash things out.
I think the ideology that I'm fundamentally different than you, or we're not the same, or I'm here and you're there, perpetuates that inability to hash things out rationally. I mean, we see it in our community when we talk. We see it in the Ultimate Team group. Well, we saw it more prevalent earlier in the inception of the group than we do now. But just a simple line in the sand: I am man and you are woman. You don't understand me, was actually perpetuating the lack of understanding. And then there's some comments where you can see that some folks had some really traumatic experiences with members of the opposite sex, which helped solidify their disposition in that we are not the same. And you don't respect me. I'm gonna spin it back to Earth now that he's back. Now that he's Danny, stop it, Daddy, stop it. Let's spin it back to Earth. Earth, you actually, I don't know if this is a good time if you are following us because we lost you. But you had a recent experience of a form of hate. Do you want to touch on it here?
Let me see. I will, but it's a point I want to make first. We'll get to it before the end of the show, definitely.
Copy that.
In regards to hate, and is it like someone asked? I think you were talking about what is it? Is it what's the question from Baba Ted?
Is it? He says, is hate assessing our dark side? Was his first question. Second question was second question was, is hate part of the survival instinct. And his third question was, is hate an auto response to being threatened?
Gotcha. So I would say if hate is, so I'll address the first one, I mean the second two. That would mean that hate is codependent upon something. That means that hate can't stand by itself. I argue that hate could actually stand by itself as just hate. Because you have instances where, you know, people may hate for no reason. In the same way, someone could love for no reason. I just love. Can't pinpoint a reason. It's just there for me. And hate could just be there for someone. You know, because if you read the definition again, and you'll see it says a strong dislike for someone or something, but it doesn't break it down into categories of what that strong dislike would be. So it could be whatever. It could be nothing. The rest of the reality of it, it could be. I'm not saying that it is. It could just be nothing. That's just how they're wired. We can't say how people are just wired because everyone is wired differently. The four of us are wired differently, you know, and so someone could just be wired that way. It's just that simple, and there's no rhyme or reason for it. It's just how the person is wired, period. And so that's my view on hate in regards to it being a auto response to a threat. It could be or not. It just could be. It's just how this person is wired, period. And anyone who has children, you'll see like your children are wired differently. You know, and people have multiple children. You have one child that is just sweet as pie, and the other one is just always grumpy. You have to sit and have, and you have another one, you have to really talk them through things. They're just not wired to handle life. And they've been that way, pretty much since they came out of the womb. So we can all be wired differently. And hate could be part of your wire. You could have this streamline, this direct connection with wherever hate resides within a person. And you're directly connected to that. But go ahead.
That's a great spot for me to drop this point. Man, when you make it real, you start talking about folks' kids, and as a parent, I sit back and I go, man, out of the 4 kids, one of them, y'all already know who it is just like love for breakfast. Don't know why. She could have got 4 hours of sleep. She didn't have her Cocoa Puffs. She's just love. And I got another kid who is like grumpy. It's like, dude, you just woke up, bro. What's like, you can't, I can't put my finger on it. Personality differences. Nothing triggered it per se. Hell, I could tell you when I was a kid, and the first time I could recall my dad putting peas in front of me. Oh, buddy. I don't know what they were just little green balls. I hated them. I hated them with a passion. I can't explain it. So this concept that hate can exist all by itself, not as a trigger response or a fight or flight response to a stimuli, is very interesting, or very interesting. So that being said, so when I was talking about hate being found in the subcortex, the putamen and the insula, look those up if you don't believe me. The psychological article goes on to say that hatred changes the chemistry in the brain as it stimulates the, oh God, I can't read my own writing, the pre-whatever cortex, which is responsible for planning, execution, and action and motion. It also, when the body responds, physiological response to hate occurring in the brain, it also prepares us to act aggressively when feeling hateful, either to defend and or attack. And to think that there are people walking around just right there, Some people for no good reason whatsoever. It's just sitting right there. Prefrontal cortex. Thank you, Therese. So smart.
Yeah, I was gonna help you, but my girl,
Yeah.
my lady Therese.
Left-handed, man. Left-handed. Thank you, Therese. It's wild to me. Let me back up to Therese's comment, guys. Let's go to Therese on YouTube at 518. So Therese says hatred definitely has a home in the human brain, but it is a secondary emotion, not a primary one. Who wants to tackle that? Agree?
Well, she followed it up and she said that the primary emotion is most likely fear.
Thank you. So, and we could rock with that, but it's not complete, right? To Earth's point, there are instances where fear, there may be an absence of fear, but the presence of hate. If I heard you correctly, right, Earth?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's grab Danny's comment at 521. Danny from Facebook, Faithful Elemental. Danny says some use hate as a drive or motivation because they want to attain or achieve something, which validates what Nas said. Great philosopher. What do y'all think about that?
Yeah, I agree. A circumstance, for example, some athletes like to perform being angry, whatever that looks like for them, and it's fueled by some hate or disdain for something, and then they have to get into this space in order to perform at a high level. So yeah, they could be driven by that. Absolutely.
Yeah, I would say that that's probably the basis of any kind of competition, if you will. I mean, if you look at war, I mean, only way you're going to kill some other people is if you got some serious motivation behind that. So I think that I agree with Earth. Anytime you're competing on, probably, I mean, I would have to think about if it's any level, but anytime you're competing, there's going to be a basis of that, especially what Danny's saying. It's going to be something that motivates you to attain that victory.
Inescapable dynamic of being human.
I wouldn't necessarily say it's inescapable because the key word is there's some. Some not all, some not most.
Well, let's go there. So in this segment, it's called Make It Real. Time to get naked. So the question to the elements and the elementals is, when was the most recent time, or what was the most recent time that you experienced the feeling of hate for something or someone?
It was when you asked that question on the air instead of letting me know that was coming up for the show.
Look at my face.
Oh man.
That's not it. Give some thought. And I will say this. If what comes up for you is something that you can't discuss because it's not peas, because it's not peas and something superficial, then think about the next one. But I want to elements. Last time you've experienced a strong dislike for something or someone, and what drove that experience?
Why don't you set it off fire while we ruminate in our minds?
Thank you for spinning it back on me, because now I got to think about it. And what comes to mind, I'll share this. Man, doggone it, water. So I had a situation where somebody who worked for me whom I went to war for, who I stood on the table for, whom I saved from being fired. I heard by several reliable sources that this person was putting things on my name that I did not earn. And so in a moment, like soon as I heard that this gentleman that I went to the mat for on multiple occasions was putting something on my name that I did not earn, I immediately felt this strong disdain for that person. Like it was like default. Like I didn't even think about it, bro. I didn't want him to, I didn't want him to die, but I certainly wanted him to experience some consequence for lying and experience some consequences for just being a terrible human in my opinion. That I'm just
So what would have been sufficient consequences?
What would have been sufficient for me would have gave me great pleasure if he had been fired. Yep, I wanted him to be fired. Look at the comments. Like I wanted Buddy to be fired because defamation of character, like yeah, I wanted him to wonder how he's going to feed his family. That's how I felt. I'm not going to clean it up. I'm going to leave it right there for now while you guys go. Yeah, exactly, Danny. Like, yeah. Like, I was like, man, if I ever see him live, it's on site. That was like 5 months ago, 4 months ago. It's my last occurrence. Who's next?
Yo, there's a lot of people that I want to punch in the face, right?
Come on, Win. Come on, Win.
Wow.
Hey, look, this is a real moment, man.
Yeah, but I wanted to say this is that having said that, in my heart of hearts, like I don't have no hatred for them. I understand that they got some issues or they might have some beef with me, but I really don't have no beef with them. But there's a couple people, like I said, that could really get it. And it'll just be justice. But I don't have no hate.
Interesting. So you didn't answer the question. When's the last time you experienced that thing that I'm describing?
Hate? I don't think I've ever experienced hate.
It could have been for 5 seconds. 7 seconds.
Like I said, for me, it's about justice. And it really, like, I don't think I've ever experienced no hate, to be honest with you. I would tell you, if I ever feel the unction of hatred, you would probably see me locked up or 6 feet under, because it's going to be a live event. Like I told you, war and peace. Ain't nothing in between.
Fair enough.
It's my favorite Windism.
More than all the hospitals in all the world.
Yeah, no, that was not funny. I like this one better.
Come on, nerd, keep it a buck.
No, I'm thinking. I really have to think hard about this. I know I've attempted to hate someone and I couldn't.
Tell us about that.
It was energy. It just took too much. I just couldn't sustain it at all. It's like for me to be mad at somebody for more than a couple of hours, I don't think I've ever been mad at anyone for more than a few hours, ever. I don't know. I just don't have it in me. And then when you said, "How about just for a moment?" That just gave me another place to look. So I was looking at extended periods of time, and there was a moment when I was fighting someone. There was this brief moment, and I just got pissed because um, his boys came. His boys were there, and it was just supposed to be he and I fighting. And then his boy like swung on me while we were locked up, and I ducked, and I just became extremely angry. I mean, beyond, I've never been that angry in my life, ever. So it was in that moment, and the thoughts that ran through my mind weren't good thoughts of what I was gonna do. Like how do I get through this situation? And it couldn't have been anybody standing for me to get through it. And so in that moment that it occurred, but even after that fight, after it was over, within a couple of hours, I just had nothing going on with it at all. And I saw his boy. I was in college at the time. I saw his boy a day or so, about a couple of days later, by the library, and I walked up, and he was looking crazy. I was like, "What's up?" I had nothing going on. Literally, I don't know how I'm able to do that. I have no clue. I have no clue at all. But I had nothing going on with him, nothing going on with the fight. It was over. I was done with it.
Yeah, so that brings up an interesting point because like someone in the comments is like, hey, what you're saying, fire, is not really hate. She probably is saying that hate is probably, like, so that brief moment is not really hate. It's more so of what Wynn was describing, where he's like, there's people I want to punch in the face.
Yeah.
To this day, like right now, man, if I think about that thing, that person, that situation, that object, whatever it is, right? I think that would be what hate is, as far as that's what I'm interpreting from the comment.
Yeah.
You know what? I just thought of something. Even the moment I just described, when I just listening to Water speak, I thought about it, and I don't think it was hate; it was survival. Either I was going to get beat up, but I couldn't be who I was just fighting one person in order to survive. Couldn't be that person.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah, because
survival.
I'm just listening to Earth, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, when fisticuffs breaks out, like, who isn't? You're scrapping, and you're in a, whether you started or someone else starts it. I mean, you kind of go until someone breaks you guys up, or that's usually how it goes, right? so unless you just, but what's funny is that I wrestled, in high school and a little bit in college, and I got to tell you, man, that like it's not like the movies. If everybody just, what's funny is that if two guys got to a fight, if everyone just left them alone, like they would be done in 10 seconds. I'm telling you. Most people are not in shape to keep like just tussling for more than like 10, 20 seconds, because I wrestled, and I'm telling you, like after 15 seconds, just not, and I'm talking about like between seasons, 10 to 15 seconds, you're like, okay, that's my water, my side there to bring a little bit of comic relief. But yes, I was thinking about what you were saying, Earth, and it just, I agree that when you're fighting someone, or there's a little scuffle, whatever you want to call it, I would agree with that.
So consider that the feeling of hate or the experience of hate
similar situation
doesn't have a time limit.
Go ahead.
Right? Consider that just like this experience of bliss. Like, you may experience bliss for 7 seconds. You might experience bliss in a meditative state for 15 minutes. There really is no textbook amount of minutes or seconds that constitutes or qualifies the hate experience. But I understand where those of you who don't connect with this fleeting experience is hate. So my instance, it lasted for maybe 2 weeks. I mean, I was really like plotting. Look, man, y'all have to understand contextually. I risked my career for this dude, literally, at this company. I put it on the line. I resisted my leadership. I resisted HR. I stood on the table and said, "You're not going to do this to this guy." And this guy stabbed me clean in the back, threw me into the gutter on my face, and then ran over me with the train. I mean, it was bad. Now, I will go back to the last fight that I had. Water made me think about my fights. So this is a true story. Last fight that I had, I actually fought twice in the same night. Going back to what I just shared with you about the bodily or the physiological response when hate occurs in the mind. The first fight, so it says, this prepares us to act aggressively when feeling hateful, either to defend and or attack. So the first fight was actually against my teammate, my roommate, one of my best friends. And the fight came about because he was our team barber. Dude can cut. My boy K-Dub, he can cut. He had the clippers. He's the only one in the suite with the clippers. And he would always let me use the clippers so I could tighten up my beard or whatever in my lineup before we went out. But for whatever reason, he was in the mood, and I asked him to use the clippers. He said no. He got in the shower. I was like, "Yo, Dub, can I use the clippers?" He's like, in his mind, dude, I already told you no. He's kind of like water, right? Like I already said no. Like my no is my no, and so I just used the clippers anyway, figuring I'm gonna clean them up. He'll get out the shower. All is good. So he got out the shower. He said, "Bruh, did I say you can use my clippers?" Immediately, I'm defensive because I know I use his clippers, but I don't like the way he's talking to me. I don't like it. And he's bigger than me. He's like 50 pounds bigger than me. I don't care. He's 6'3". I'm 6 foot. I'm a DB. He a tight end. Don't care. Got a smart mouth. I said, nah, you didn't say anything, actually. He said, but did I say you can use them? I said, again, semantics. I asked you, you said nothing. Actually, you didn't say anything. He said, man, if I didn't say nothing, that's not my blessing. And he said, man, your mouth is going to get you in trouble one day. And I said, not today. So he said, all right, bet. He goes and puts on his shoes. I'm like, man, what is this dude? What is this dude gonna do? We're brothers, man. What are we doing? Bro walks up to me. I'm figuring we're gonna do some, you know how when you're young, you do the little shoulder bump and you go around in a circle. Bro walked straight up in my face. It was like, I'm telling you, your mouth is gonna get you in trouble. I said, by who? He said, BAM! Right in my mouth. Yeah. Didn't bust my lip. I didn't bleed. Took a step back, did one of these, and I said, you hit like a B word. And then we start scrapping. And to Waters' point, you have two Division 1A elite athletes, sub 10 body fat percentage, both of us, and we fought like cats, or mainly dogs, for a strong 46 seconds. Or it had to be, but It felt like an eternity, bro. It felt like an eternity. We were exhausted. And when he punched me in the mouth, I was like, I felt the quick, like in my body, I felt like I hated this dude, like he's the enemy, right? So I couldn't believe my brother would punch me in the mouth. And in that moment, I had to treat him like he wasn't my brother. And we went after it. We went at it. Fast forward, we make up, we shake it, like literally, we're exhausted. You done? You good? All right. You good? Yeah, I'm good. We wrap it up. We go to the skating rink to the pit party. It's me, my roommates, there's 3 of us, 4 of us, just like this right here. My boy steps on a regular dude's shoe. He's with a whole gang of regular dudes. What that means is non-football player, non-athlete. They're not on scholarship. They decide to start jumping my man. I'm already, the adrenaline still hasn't quite settled down. So I see them jumping my man out the corner of my eye, and I just experienced this hate thing again. And I'm just bang, bang, bang. All dudes on the ground. I'm still, they call the cops. We leave. I say all that to say this. These are temporary moments. They didn't last that long. But I definitely felt hate in my heart, in my body, even for my brother. I definitely felt hate for the dude that got pummeled in the skating rink for trying to jump my dog G Hayes. And I say all that to say it could definitely be something that you experience for a moment and then you come back down from it. And I definitely agree that people walk around on 10, wishing a mother would every day in the world. There's somebody walking around that's right there waiting for somebody to step on their shoe, waiting for somebody to look at them sideways, waiting for somebody to grin on them or not smile, waiting for somebody to bump them, just ready to pop off. And so I want to shift the conversation now to how we could be more mindful in the world regarding hate and how we could be cause for dissipating it when it's harmful to other people. That being said, when was the last time you de-escalated a hateful situation? How did you do it? You saw hate occurring in the world and you de-escalated it. How did you do it?
Looks like you're gonna have to go first again.
Yeah, I just might. Elementals, ask yourself the same question. The last time you experienced hate in the world outside of yourself and you de-escalated that situation, what was it? How did you de-escalate it? For me, wow. Hate in the world. Got it. All right, boom. I was in Philadelphia walking down the street. And man, I saw an African-American male yelling obscenities at an African-American woman. And I can hear him talking very aggressively, cursing at her, maybe like from a half a block away. And it was in my critical path to my destination. So I had I wasn't going to jump the street and go across the street. But as I'm approaching the situation, I'm like, yo, what are you going to do? Are you going to continue to walk and mind your gosh darn business? Because you don't know if this dude got heat, got a knife. You don't know what he's dealing with. And then when bro proceeded to punch the woman, I just
put the cape on.
Instantly.
The
theme song started playing and everything.
My thought process was to just separate the two, and then de-escalate the situation by talking to the brother and getting him to calm down, because she wasn't the aggressor, he was the aggressor. So I broke him apart. He's swinging. I asked her to continue down the street. I talked to him and I couldn't match his energy because he was on 1,000. And matching his energy, I knew that me and him was just gonna be in the street. He gonna poke me, pop me, shoot me, whatever the case may be. I wasn't even thinking about that. I was just thinking about getting the brother to 0. And it took a while. He finally calmed down. I don't know if he ran after her after I left, but I had like I had to do something. I had to do something. And you're not surprised. You're not surprised, man. But I'm clear. The only path that I had to neutralizing the situation was to come from nothing. Was to come from a neutral position. You know, yeah, I you know, and I'll tell you, like Will Smith, I will share with you all that there was another instance several years prior. I was in my house with the kids in court. It's late. We lived in a community where there was a lot of ex and current military folks. Not that that means anything. I'm just painting some context for you. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning. We hear this loud racket. It's our neighbors. The husband is outside. Now, he's in military, so I know he got a lot of guns, and I know he knows how to use them, right? But he is literally, he has his wife by the back of her head, her hair, and he is banging her face off the car. I'm not talking about no WWE where you put, I mean, like just it. And I was like, yo, like I'm triggered. Like I got to go out there and do something. And Courtney grabbed me like, boy, that dude is a Marine. Like that's different. Like you need to call the police. That's what you need to do. You need to call the police. And that is what I did. But I'm sharing that with you to say that ran in my mind when I saw Buddy yelling at Queen from a half a block away. And I just decided that however it turned out, it was going to turn out, but I was going to do something. That's my story. Hopefully that gave y'all enough time to think about one time y'all de-escalated a hateful situation.
Yeah, I got one. So it's the classic gratuitous at the basketball court, man. And just two cats jawing, just kept talking, you know, going down one end of the court, they're talking, bumping each other, go down the other end, they're bumping each other. And then finally one of the guys is just, you know, a lot of profanity going, one of the guys just straight up. So you already know, like, when this happens, what's about to go down, but they basically facing each other. He pushes him in the chest. So everybody already knows, like, okay, you know what happens next. So instead of like engaging the guy who got pushed, he just starts running to his car. And so people just start like straight dispersing. Like everybody's like, oh, it's time to scat. And so, you know, like, I was one of the there was a couple of us. I was one of the ones that kind of just went over there, just like, yo, man, you know, like, dude, you guys just playing basketball, man. Like, just let it go. He was talking junk. You were talking junk. It's time to go home, man. Like we were having that conversation with him because, you know, it was just a gratuitous basketball court. People, you know, of course, you know, guys being competitive, having a good time out, exercising and whatnot, but it really could have went real south real fast if everybody would have just decided to like, hey, that's between those two dudes right there. That could have gone real south. So kind of like you, Fire. The instinct is there to say, look, man, just calm down. You know, everybody's kind of like, hey, you know, hands out, like, hey. You know, let's take a moment to take a couple of breaths here and see what's going on and talk this out right quick. And eventually it dismissed, but the game was over. Like basketball was over that day. It was a wrap. But the instinct is there when you see that, and you know when you actually know that, hey, I can actually instantly do something, and it's not even like you're not thinking about it. You're just like, hey. However, going to your situation where there's some domestic stuff, I don't know, man. I mean, you just never know these days. And I think your wife was correct, is that the appropriate thing to do is to call the cops. I mean, that's the real appropriate thing to do. Now, if somebody is like really, really physically inflicting something, you can go up and say, hey, you know, like, but again, to just grab the guy, I don't know about that, man. Like that's like grabbing a dog at their food or something. Like you just don't know what could happen in that situation.
Bro, I felt like a B word, man. I'm this is me being trained. I felt like a B word, and I said to myself that if I ever seen anything like that going on again, I was going to intervene. And it just so happened to be the Philly situation. And the reason why I make the correlation with with Will, because he probably, you know, he made his mind up, man. The next person, you know what I mean? And so people have limits, but I don't disagree with you, Water. And I don't. Court was right. I might not even. I mean, who knows what could have happened if I had gone out there and intervened? But I'm just being honest and saying that I felt like a coward in that moment, and I made that decision not to feel that again. It's sad for me to articulate this, guys, but this is real. It was like the feeling of allowing somebody else to be hurt in that way. And it's like I'd rather take my chances, you know, with my life than to sit back idly and not do something. If I'm being honest. Earth, what you got, Doc? Last time you de-escalated a hateful situation outside of you, if you have any.
I don't know if it was hateful, but it was a situation that was about to get real ugly, real quick. I was I gone to the Falcons played the Giants, and we know how rabid Giant fans can be from time to time. So I'm on public transportation. So the game's over, heading back to the crib. So I jump on the train. You know, the train is packed, and so the door is closing. Everybody's in there like sardines, and you can see this guy running in the distance. He is wide open, and it looks like he had just got off work. I don't know. He has his backpack on, and as the door's like closing, he gets to the threshold and he jumps or he leaps onto the train. Now we're in there like sardines, and as he leaps, he's literally turning his body around like he's doing a 180. And then as he's turning, like his book bag, like it hits this sister. She's like, oof, she goes back. And so the guy just stands there and he's looking out of the window, didn't say a word. And so she's like, excuse you. And he's just not saying anything. She said, excuse you. And then like she pokes him. He turns around. He's like, you could say, excuse me, you just hit me with your bag. He's like, I didn't hit you with my bag. She said, yes, you did. So then they get into this little argument back and forth. And he's like in this denial. And I don't know how he could say he didn't, because like we was, squished like sardines. And so they start going back and forth. He's in denial. And, he just kind of bows up a little bit. You can tell he's getting a little upset. His cheeks get a little flushed. You can tell he's getting upset. She's going back and forth. So she mushes him in the face. And when she does that, then I kind of stood up. I was already standing, but just kept kind of getting a little more erect. And then he looked over at me, and I just shook my head. I said, that's not a good idea. I was like, I just said, that's not a good idea, my man. I just shook my head like this. And then you see him, he just came down enough. He didn't come all the way down, but he came down enough to just, go about his business. He never apologized at all, but he just kind of turned back around and started looking out of the window. And that was it. Because I was like, if this dude even thinks about doing something, it's going to be a wrap. Because the moment he mushed him in the face, every brother on the train just did like this. And I was like, this dude is never going to make it off this train if he does something to this woman. It is not going to happen at all. So I was like, that's not a good idea, my man. Don't do that. And so I can say that was one, but an outright hateful situation, I don't know. Maybe, and in the moment she could have been raging. Well, she was raging because she was pissed. He did hit her kind of hard, not even kind of hard. It was hard. He had like this big. There's a book bag that was overstuffed.
Yeah.
So you just imagine, and he leaps and he turns. That's in the air, and he lands. He's like, the bag like hits her like there. I'm like, but yeah, that's my experience. But and she was probably raging. She could have been filled with some hate in the moment. I don't know, but she was pissed.
Absolutely. What you got, B?
I see it a whole different way, to be honest with you. I see hatred as being a different realm. And there's a very high threshold to get to hatred. And what I mean by this is that, I have experienced a lot of, violence. And I don't think that violence or conflict, whether it be physical or verbal, necessarily rises to the category of hatred. I think it's just an emotional experience, and that is sometimes necessary and vital to get to a resolution or to an understanding or to experience peace. Hatred is something that is deep seated, and that you actually become conscious to the notion that I hate this person, right? And I think that hatred, to really be expressed, has to be physically expressed out in the world. You have to actually act on it, right? So when you guys talk about the basketball fiascos or the street fiascos, I don't see that as hatred. I just see it as, just an experience, an episode. But the guy that you said that was beating his woman against the car. Now, there may have been hatred for something that she had done, or hatred, towards women, right? And I have de-escalated, not physical confrontations, but verbal and mental conflicts that men have had with women. I know some guys that have been divorced or that have been estranged from their wives and their kids, and they have actually begun to hate their exes or whoever they just broke up with or still with and still working things out. And, it's really, a series of conversations that you have to have to de-escalate that. Let me just give a clear example. There are brothers that are on child support, and they are tremendously angry and bitter, and they become so angry and bitter that they actually begin to hate their exes, and some of them begin to hate women. And one of the conversations that I had with somebody over the years is that it's all good, bro. You made this you made this decision, and there's no going back. And you want to make certain that your child has the resources necessary for them to grow well. You want to make certain that your wife or your ex-wife or your ex-girl, has the resources and the space to rear your child in a good manner. and having those type of conversations like de-escalates and brings people down from hatred to a different type of understanding. So that's one of my examples. But like I said, hatred is a whole different realm. It's a high threshold to really get to that. And I think that, for the most part, the people that hate, they have it at some point becomes very conscious, and they begin to act on it. And I'll pause right there.
Well, you pause right at time, bro. And this is a conversation around hate, as that you all can see, as Earth talked about it being nuanced earlier, as multifaceted. It's neither positive or negative. You can see it play out in the world for a multitude of different reasons. You've heard from all of us discuss how we have been able to subdue or dissipate that energy from the space. And if you noticed, common theme, that none of the mechanisms for dissipation was hate itself or aggression, even aggression itself. So if there was aggression happening in this space, it was calm. It was, us being at zero or neutral to neutralize the situation. So the adage of the cliche fighting fire with fire is I don't know, you might want to challenge that. With that being said, I think we'll close with our examples of how to dissipate it, because I think that's important. I think it's important for us all as individuals to realize and recognize when it is emerging inside of us, or when the feelings are emerging inside of us. I will accept those of you who believe that this whole concept of hate has to be something that's deep-seated or connected to something that really, or someone that really matters to you, versus it being a fleeting experience like ecstasy or bliss or temporary insanity. I'm on the side of, you can absolutely experience an emotion in a nanosecond, because it's not a state of permanence, and it doesn't have to be connected to anything deeper. It's just a feeling and a physiological response. But next week the show goes to, I believe it's you, Wind. You want to tee up your next show?
My favorite phrase. I have no clue what it's going to be about, but it's going to be on time, and it's going to be extraordinary.
Period. We'll give y'all your night back. Elementals, we out. Peace.
Next week.
Peace.